with the incentive to give people more money in order to make more money back, it's hard to control that flow so that it
kind of like evenly distributes itself, I guess.
evenly distributes and doesn't increase the economy at too high of a pace, right? That the economy isn't justifying that new influx of currency, right? Because we've already just established that currencies are all based around supply and demand. But if you're a bank, your job is to increase supply from a business standpoint, because when you increase supply, you're able to increase your own profit margins. So yeah, it is a, I don't know, it's one of those things that you're like, I feel like we've overlooked this a little bit here, right? Like that this aspect of maybe we should have not put these two things so closely together, in the sense that like something that we don't want to have happen, where it's like, oh, like print all this money and give out all these loans and all this stuff, but then at the same time you're like, well, that's their only purpose, right? Like if banks were completely centralized, like top to bottom, that there was no TD Bank, there was no Bank of America, there was no
just
whatever
branches.
If you just had the National Bank of Canada and the National Bank of the United States, and that was 100% of banks were like that, I think then you could maybe have a world where banks aren't making profit because it just would be like a government,
they're localized
agency type of thing, right? Like, it would be funded by the government, and it would just be this purpose of trade, I guess, for that matter. Like a method for executing exchange. But yeah, we don't live in that world. And so we have a situation where you're like, oh, let me push these loans on people. Or I think the big one is always credit cards, right?
Big time. Oh yeah. And like, they catch people that way because you get them young, right? And it's, oh, look here.
Yeah.
You can borrow $3,000 and
because you're like, $3,000.
You need your first car. Yeah. You need your first car.
Going off to university or whatever, right? Yeah. It is like, I think it is super interesting because you don't have anyone who's really teaching how to use a credit card properly. And then you have situations where it's like, okay, I either will hear from someone who says, oh, don't use a credit card at all. Like it'll ruin your life. And that's true for some people, because some people don't know how to use a credit card. Right. But then the reality is credit cards are great because it's a way to delay your payments, but you shouldn't be buying things on a credit card that you don't actually have the ability to pay off in the first place.
Yeah. If you can't pay it off in 30 days or whatever, 60 days, sometimes you get those like 45-day ones. Yeah.
Well, but because it kind of works like if you bought something at the beginning of a month's, like a credit card cycle, you're not paying it for close to 60 days type of thing, right? Because by the time the bill comes in, and then you have whatever 15, 20,
so many
30
days to pay it. Exactly.
Right. So it is a great way to manage your finances, not to mention to build your credit, which is like useful for if you want to go and get that loan for like a mortgage for a house.
Because they look at your history.
Right.
Of how you pay things back.
Yeah. Did you pay it off? Are you utilizing all the credit? So it's super important, but it's one of those things that most people don't use credit cards like that. They don't use. I'm going on a. It's like, trip. Right. It's like I'm putting it on credit because I actually can't afford it, right? Like rather than like I'm putting it on credit to build my economic portfolio wealth. If that makes sense.
See, it's like, if it's like the start of a billing period and you're maybe like a week out from a payday and you're like, okay, well, I need $40 worth of groceries.
Yeah. Right.
Put it on your credit card, and then within 7 days you pay that $40 off.
Yeah.
And then that's how you build healthy credit.
Yeah.